welcome to the WCS Korea Challenger League. It's starting. Finally, I'm Wolf, with me as Calder, and I'm pretty excited today.
Today's going to be our first run in the WCS Challenger League, and we have a couple of really exciting matches for you guys. A lot of players that just came up in the recent past have their first round in the Challenger League today, and we have a couple of people that abandoned the scene for a few months and are now back to business.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how well Coco's going to do today. Yeah. Almost qualified last season, finally made it through this season. He's been a player who's been around for so long. He's been through a few team changes, a lot of hairstyle color changes, and always is rocking the curly hair. Two questions is he in shape, and is his hair still curly?
Well, I already told you last time that it isn't anymore at the qualifier, and you didn't recognize him.
Yeah, I didn't recognize him.
Yeah,
it was a trick that he played on me.
Yeah, it was actually a little bit weird. Usually at the qualifier, when we try to get into the players' games, we walk around and talk to them, and I did not recognize him at all at first, so it was really a little bit weird. But we have him today. He's going to play in a Zerg versus Zerg. It's going to be the last of our 4 matches today. But the opening game is also really interesting. We talked about it yesterday at the Team League already. We have Sora, and he is going up against Curious.
Yeah, Curious played yesterday, so this is going to be a pretty interesting match. We got to see a little taste of his Zerg versus Protoss, and we got to see some Corruptors die in a fire, but that was really, really fun.
Yeah, yesterday was already really interesting when we had Curious going up against opponents like Seed, and because he wanted to hide his builds a little bit, he went for a 10 pull, actually for a 9 pull, I think, in the opening.
Yeah.
Really early pull for him and try to put pressure on the Seed early on to just change things up a little bit. And it was a very interesting game that we saw there, but definitely I don't think that we're going to see something like this from Curious today. Yeah. This is the day when he's really going to reveal the builds that he's been practicing with his team to take down Sora. But let's face it, Sora is an incredibly tough Protoss versus Zerg player, and Curious will definitely have his work cut out for him.
Yeah, I think Curious is going to have to show some really structured builds against him here in this best of 3, because when we saw him play against Protoss yesterday, he wasn't called out against a Protoss, he was called out against a Zerg, and then he had to, of course, eventually play Protosses.
Yeah. Protoss is actually the worst matchup for Curious these days. This is definitely an issue for him. He's much stronger against Terran and also against Zerg than he is against Protoss, and he's up against a Protoss versus Zerg master. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how he's going to deal with this situation. Here we have, of course, the advanced players.
Yeah, the players who won that were off air. So you can see a lot of famous names in there. Pet, Fantasy, Ragnarok being kind of notable ones. Avenge down there, Lenok, Bjorn advanced as well as Creator. A lot of people worried about him. Zero from Wungjin Stars actually recently released from Wungjin Stars Zero. Haiva did not get dropped out. Ruin is also through. Bang, Paralyzed. So a lot of fan favorites in here.
Yeah. And with 3, we of course mean through the first round of the WCS Challenger League. These players will not drop down to Code Beat again. They are now in the Challenger League in the second round and have their shot to go straight to the Premier League if they win their upcoming matches. Yeah. But a really nice lineup that we have here. And today, of course, we have 8 players that try to achieve the same goal.
Notably, Marine King did lose, and he was in Code A straight since the beginning, never dropped out, so that was a pretty big, notable loss there yesterday. Or not yesterday, but on the 30th.
Yeah. Here we have today's matches. As mentioned before, Curious versus Sora is going to be our opening match, versus Zerg versus Zerg is going to be the last. In between, we have Life versus Trust, and Hurricane has to go up against Bunny.
Yeah, we got a Protoss in every single match except our final one. And double Protoss versus Zerg here, so it'll be interesting to see how Trust and Sora and Curious and Life kind of match up with these matchups, how they play differently. Life did play in GSTL yesterday as well, so that's something to consider.
Yeah, Life played in a Zerg versus Zerg, lost that match on the other hand, and here we have the Startail player to the left, the Zerg player for the team. With a really, well, not the best record as already mentioned before in this matchup. We're going to talk about this a little bit later. Sora, on the other hand, he has been causing waves ever since he participated in the WCG qualifier for South Korea, where he defeated Curious with a 2-0. He defeated Soulkey, he took down Shine and JKS, and didn't drop a single map. I think he went 14-0 in total, and people have been a huge fan of this player to the right for CJ Andrews ever since. Yeah. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how he's going to do today.
It certainly will be, man. This guy is on top of the world when it comes to Protoss versus Zerg. Curious really has to have some special builds planned here. Frost being the first map, he's got a lot of potential for aggression here. But I really feel like the ball is in Curious's court right now. What has he prepared here?
I absolutely agree. I don't think that with a normal game, Curious is able to win against Sora, given the recent history and how strong Sora actually is in this matchup. I think Curious needs very specific builds and good timings to take down the Protoss player here. He cannot simply rely on a late game where everything is just decision-making. I don't think that in this scenario he's able to beat Sora. But maybe he has a couple of really cool builds prepared. Curious is a very experienced player, and he might be able to pull it off.
And we'll find out here right now. The WCS Korea Challenger League. Curious up against Sora, casted by Calderon Wolf.
Starting to the top right of Frost in the first map of our best of 3, we have the Startail Zerg player. It is
Startail Curious.
Curious in this matchup. A little bit more shaky than he was in Wings of Liberty. He has 7 map wins and 15 losses. That leaves him with a 31% win ratio. His worst matchup in Heart of the Swarm. Starting to the bottom right of the map, we have a Protoss versus Zerg specialist, the CJ Entus Protoss player.
CJ Entus Sora.
And Sora in this matchup is simply crazy. Numbers really don't do the kid justice. He has a 75% win ratio, 20 maps played, he won 15 of them. But the more important thing is that in the last 6 best of 3s that he played against Zerg, he did not drop a single map. He now won 14 maps in a row against Zerg. He beat JKS, Shine, Curious, and Solki at the WCG qualifier for South Korea. And in the WCS qualifier for the Challenger League, he took down Juni with a 2-0. And then in the finals of his bracket, he defeated Czech with a 2-0 as well. So Curious definitely in a very tough spot against such an accomplished opponent in this matchup.
Yeah, he really is up against a mountain here. He's got a mountain to climb, as they say. Luckily for him, we're not spawned horizontally, we're spawned vertically, because as we saw yesterday on this particular map, if you take that fast there is a Protoss and you engage on that bridge repeatedly, it's very difficult for a Zerg to attack. If he goes around rather than going on that bridge, it takes so much longer, so it gives a Protoss a lot of time. So this is really good for Curious at the start. At least he doesn't have to deal with that.
We have apparently, it looks like a double hatch opening before pool. So Curious, I actually love this for the reasons that we mentioned already earlier. Curious finds himself in a situation where he is up against a very tough opponent, and he himself has of course a lot of experience, and that is the small edge that he has over Sora, especially here of course in Heart of the Swarm. And he goes now for a double hatch before pool build and actually gambles a lot here, even gets the gas before he goes into the pool. And on a big map like Frost, you can get away with something like this. Sora is opening here with a gateway instead of a forge opening, which is these days not that common anymore. More people are tending to go into gateway first now. But this gives Curious a massive edge in the early game, of course, and in the mid game, if he can carry this out. And Sora doesn't even scout. So this is exactly what Curious needs here, I feel.
Exactly, you know, and I'm sure Curious has studied his play, asked a lot of people how he's been playing this matchup, looked at any VODs he could find, and he's found that a lot of the time he does not scout on some of these maps, especially 4-player maps.
If you remember Wings of Liberty, where we had double hatch before pool as well, it was actually kind of incredible to see that a few Zerg players countered partying because they knew that on certain maps like Daybreak, he only sent a probe to the first Naga watchtower. They knew exactly that he did not scout the Zerg's main base, that he just tried to stick with his own build order, and Zerg started to abuse that a lot, and that's what we see here as well.
Oh, look
Sora
at this.
with an attempted snipe on the Overlord, and he might be able to get it.
Close. Ship 4 going to continue to get vision here.
Yeah, the Overlord will go
The Overlord's definitely going to go down. 5 more shots here, it looks like.
Well,
no, even less. 1 more will do it, and that's it.
This is it, and the Overlord already gone. And not the best start here for the scouting with the Overlords for Curious, of course.
But luckily for him, at least, you know, he does get that +1 from the other hatchery when it comes to supply. And actually, he's not missing a whole lot of production here. He got his queens, and he did get his Zergling speed up, so that's what he was investing a lot of his minerals into. So, yes, this is an annoyance for Curious, but it could, you know, it could have been worse. He could have been scouted early on with his 3rd base. Yeah, could have been a Forge expand, you know.
And actually, like, the scouting path for Sora is working in Curious' favor. Sora decided to go clockwise here, and that means he will scout Curious at the last position possible that he is sending units over to. So right now we have Curious already with speed halfway done. He has, with the speed, then an opportunity to work against the gateway units of his opponent.
Yeah.
And I think his three bases should be very much secure, especially with him now actually sacrificing lava for Zerglings. He should not be surprised by any kind of shenanigans.
Exactly. He's going to have a lot of Lings out here to work with, and obviously this is not going to be a commitment as he's droning up behind this, and he knows with the wall there, he should be fine against Sora, that it should be fine against Ling aggression, but he has so much production here. You see how he can explode just having that fast third hatchery.
He will get that Stalker.
Yes.
There's no way for the Stalker to escape. Speed is done, and the Stalker therefore fair game. Very well done here. Curious losing an Overlord, killing a Stalker, a trait that he is probably pretty happy.
And you know, Color, he still doesn't know about the third base, how fast it was. His Mothership Core went all the way around the other side. So did his Stalker. So he scouted wrong, unluckily for him. And now he's going to get his very first glimpse of that hatchery, and he's not going to be happy about it.
Yeah, not at all. Oh my god, he might as well lose a few of the sentries here. Not quite, not just yet. Sentries moving out for a second, but that was really scary. If you lose the sentries early on in the game, then you find yourself really in a predicament. So now once again, Lings are trying to move in.
Yeah, and actually there's no sentries here. He has to turn around. And this buys Curious more and more time to get that Roach Warren up. And this aggression that we're probably going to see followed up with this Roach Warren is just going to poke at the front and make sure that Sora can't take a third base, which he's trying to do now, but it's definitely not going to work against this many Lings coming out.
It shouldn't. Like, if Curious really finds out that there is an attempt to get the third base early on, he should just go down on the third. That's exactly what he does. He moves in with the Zergling, sees it now, doesn't turn around just yet. He wants to go for the sentries here, and he's starting to attack them immediately. The energy is already going down on most of the sentries. A couple of force fields are still remaining on the other hand, and Curious builds more units. Zerglings and Roaches on the way. He wants to take down this third base of his opponent.
In my opinion, this is a brilliant choice because he knows how many sentries there are exactly. He's already seen them. He wants to bait out force fields here and keep the sentries away from that nexus so that when his next wave of units come in, he can't use the force fields against those units, and he might have taken a few of the sentries with him even.
And he has a second force of Zerglings that can always just try to backstab those sentries, come in from behind and do damage. Here come the Roaches now going for the cannon. The rest of the Zerglings already on the way, trying to just bring in the flank, and there we go.
There we go. The Zerglings not able to get any surface area on the other hand. Brilliant force fields by Sora, even with the weakened energy. Mothership Core drops that overcharge. So many Zerglings still, though.
Yeah, maybe Curious waited a little bit too long here. We'll find out. Roaches are still streaming in, but with the Nexus already done, the Photon overcharge is definitely helping him out a lot. And Sora with a great job of keeping his sentries alive. He lost a few, but the Nexus is another issue. Can he save that? It doesn't really look like it.
It does not look like it, especially the two Roaches coming from the left side. The Nexus does fall, and with the rest of the Zerglings coming in here, actually some of these sentries may fall as well. He's got the Roaches to target if he wants to.
Roach is moving in, but he's already retreating. Curious is still behind in Harvesters on the other hand. He's currently looking at 45 against 54. Can, of course, at any point just simply drone up. He has the lava available. Goes into additional Roaches right now. He's lacking that attack upgrade that Sora already has, but the Protoss player is now still on 2 bases against 3.
This is an unfortunate timing to remake that Nexus. He will probably have to cancel this, but it's going to cost Curious a lot to do that. And just delays the Nexus a little bit, cost him 100 minerals. But I actually like Sora's position a lot here. Curious did add those drones, like you said. He's getting Roach speed, but we have +2, Blink, the Dark Shrine coming up here. All of these techs really going to put a damper on Curious taking a 4th base.
Yeah, Sora definitely making some really good moves here. He wants to have this third, though. Without the third, he's in trouble, but the Zerglings actually break through one of the force fields. And a couple of those, they are really out of energy. He needs to get more sentries with energy in here for force fields if he really wants to win this battle. But he goes for the recall instead, since he realized that he cannot possibly take down all of these Roaches.
Yeah, I think that might have even been a mistake for him to wait that long. I think he might have been barely not enough energy, so he had to wait a second there. But just walking away would have saved him a lot more sentries. As it is, Curious is supply blocked, but he's still got that worker count up. And he is getting the tech out. 6 Overlords at a time being made right now, so he's not going to be supply blocked anytime soon.
And he gets the +1 attack upgrade. It's nearly completed now. That will put him on the same upgrade count as Sora. Roaches still streaming across the map. And Curious is now aware that there is a third base that is going to be completed in just a few seconds for Sora once again. So he has a choice of either just going into tech, doing damage, or maybe even taking another base himself and laying low for now.
Yeah, there is one Immortal out. No additional Immortals being produced right now. He's hiding these DTs here. As you can see, he puts one intentionally on hold position. And it looks like he may go on Queen Assassination duty. He's already been spotted, though. That's actually incredible. While he's attacking here, he does spot the DTs. He's chasing them even. And these are going to do very likely minimal damage, if any. Although he does miss it at first, now he will get them.
Here we go. Very, very nice move that we had here. And another DT, even already being attacked, might be able to take down the Queen. but that should be about it. So really good moves here by Curious. I'm actually very surprised that he saw those DTs right away. He must have spotted them immediately when they entered the creep. So really good moves by Curious. He's currently 30 supply up and trying, of course, to get his additional tech now out. Only relying on roaches in the long run is probably not going to cut it for him here.
Yeah, he definitely is going to have to... I mean, unless he can do critical damage with this force that's coming across right now, switch things up pretty soon here. Roach Burrow movement on the way for him. +1 not done in time for this attack. There aren't very many Immortals. I think there's still just the one.
Curious really wants to go for a massive amount of roaches. Burrow and, of course, the roach movement speed that you already pointed out. The Burrow movement is coming into play, and that's only one Immortal so far, and that's what he's trying to use here, but he can't dodge those force fields just yet. The upgrades are not done. He has to move back once again, and he's lost a fair chunk of his army.
Yeah, I think Blink is done, so he can actually go for Blink on the chase if he wants to here with the roaches in retreat. Decides to play it safe on the other hand. Nice Blink back there, keeping his third base alive, well fortified, and he's still up in the Harvester count. Curious did not do a whole lot with this, and I'm starting to worry for him a little bit here.
Curious wanted to go for a massive amount of units and just barrel down his opponent and win the numbers game, but it's not really going to work for him because Sora just was the entire time so meticulous about his probe count. He has a really good income. The third base, securing it was such a massive move for him, but he is still behind in army supply. But now we have Sora blinking in, doing the damage. Curious is trying to go through the wall at the natural and doing damage to the natural and the main base maybe. But can he really achieve that? It looks like he might be able to just split his units perfectly.
It looks like it's time for a recall, you know? Does he have enough energy? I think he would if he... Okay, there he goes. Recalls into the main base. So a lot of damage here at the natural. He might even lose that Nexus, losing a lot of probes. The 1 DT helping out a lot. Actually, a few more warped in, so he has 4 there now. Burrow movement quite handy on the other hand.
Yeah, Burrow movement helping him, but there is an Observer. The Observer already helped to take down the roaches in the main base, and now he's moving down to the natural, trying to take down all of the roaches as fast as he can. Another round of attack is going down on that third base, and the Nexus is not looking good.
Not looking good at all. I do not believe he will save this one, and he knows it as well. Sends a lot of his probes away. Blinks on top of the roaches. The roaches will not escape with the Observer being there. But Curious has spent a lot on this, and he doesn't have a lot of steam left. A counterattack could be devastating. It looks like that's exactly what he's going for, already walking across the map here.
Yeah, on the other hand, if Curious is able to actually withstand this pressure right now and forces Sora back, he's in a great position. But he needs to defend against this. And as you already said, this is a pretty strong army here for the CG Enders players. He has currently DTs in that mix. He has a lot of sentries. We have the +2 attack upgrade for him. And the army supply is in favor of Curious, but just by such a small margin. And here we go, moving in right into the concave. The force fields are good, and Curious retreats, buying himself a little bit more time.
Yeah, buying a little bit more time, but there are so many Stalkers with Blink and +2. Even with the Immortals back, he's going to have some trouble dealing with those. Compositionally, Curious needs to make sure he uses his Burrow movement because that's all he's really got on his side here.
DT's already gone. The sentries are next. Those 2 Immortals in the back doing a massive amount of damage to all of the roaches. Curious is moving in with additional reinforcements right now. The injects are not popping just yet. He needs more lava at this point. He's still up in supply. At least an army supply a second ago, but it is Sora's time to shine right now. Those Immortals taking roaches apart, nearly one-shotting them.
Yeah, Curious really having the better economy until this moment with the Nexus being gone, but now he no longer has that advantage. The third Nexus is nearly recomplete. In fact, it just finished as I said that. He just doesn't have enough power here. GG.
GG and game. Sora running with his advantage in tech. The better army composition by far. Roaches alone, even with the Link support, not enough to stop the Protoss player here. And despite the good opening for the Startail player, Curious finds himself down one map.
Down a map here, and, you know, brilliant play from him in a lot of ways. But he just tried to go for the floodgate tactic, and Sora's forces were honestly just too damn good. Really, really nice blocks there. And once his commitment really affected his drone production, and he did not do enough damage, Sora obviously just had way too much and continued the attack. That counterattack was devastating. But like you said, if Curious had held on just a few seconds more, or just had a few more larvae to use, then he probably would have been able to hold transition and use that better economy that he had.
I think the biggest problem that Curious actually had in this game is that he was relying on a very few number of drones in the beginning. So his idea here was to actually just overwhelm his opponent with a lot of roaches and just going to town on him, taking down the third base over and over again. But since Sora had the better harvester count and established himself as third base, then he had the better production, and that's the big problem for Curious. If he would have had the much better production over his opponent, the incoming could just use all those hatches with the inject. I think the sheer number of roaches might have been able to overwhelm Sora. But with the economy of the Protoss player actually being better, up to the point where Curious sniped this third, there was just no way for him to make this happen and at the same time counter the tech advantage that Sora had with the Immortals in the composition, with the +2 attack upgrade and everything else.
And the blink, yeah, I mean the blinks were pretty good there in that fight. Not perfect, but definitely helped him out quite a bit. And I liked Curious's idea. Had he had burrow movement a little bit faster too, he could have gone underneath the force shields with his initial attack. So just missing his timings by a few seconds there. We're going on to Whirlwind though. Map number 2, WCS Korea here to the Challenger League. Will Curious tie it up or will Sora advance? Let's find out right now. Challenger League.